When I arrived at my sister's engagement party, the groom's family did not treat me kindly at all. From the very first moment they saw me, they acted like I did not belong there. They talked to me as if I were a helper or a maid instead of a guest. Some of them smiled, but their smiles were not nice. They laughed quietly when they looked at my clothes. They whispered to each other and shook their heads. Then they started telling me that I should find a real job, like the ones they had. All the while, they would not stop talking about themselves. They talked about how rich they were. They talked about how important they were. They talked about how powerful their family was. Over and over again, they said the same company name like it was magic, Omnicorp Global. They said it loudly and proudly, as if saying the name made them better than everyone else in the room. They had no idea who I really was. They did not know that I did not just work at Omnicorp Global. They did not know that I did not just know someone who worked there. The truth was much simpler, and much worse for them. I owned Omnicorp Global. And soon, that truth was going to turn their perfect night into their worst nightmare. The cold air inside the Grand Regency Ballroom in Manhattan felt strange on my skin. It did not feel warm or happy like a party should. Instead, it felt stiff and serious, like the room itself was watching and judging everyone who walked inside. It felt like the air was made to make people feel small unless they were rich and powerful. The ballroom was huge. Very huge. Big crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. They sparkled and shined so brightly that they hurt my eyes if I looked at them too long. It felt like 100 little suns were trapped inside the glass. The ceiling was so high that it almost made me dizzy when I looked up. Instead of feeling exciting, it felt heavy and scary, like the room was pressing down on everyone inside it. In the middle of the room stood a giant ice sculpture shaped like a swan. It was taller than most people. It looked fancy and expensive, but it was also melting. Little drops of water slid down its smooth ice body and fell into a shiny puddle on the floor. To me, it looked sad, like it was slowly crying as it disappeared. Everywhere I turned, people were talking. But they were not laughing or joking in a fun way. They were talking in low, serious voices. Men wore dark suits and shiny shoes. Women wore dresses that sparkled and glittered. They talked about money, big jobs, famous people, and important events. It felt like everyone was trying to prove something. The air felt thick. It felt hard to breathe. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? My name is Marceline Voss. I am 32 years old. Most people believe that I am simply the founder and CEO of a technology company called Voss Tech. That part is true, but it is not the whole story. 8 years ago, Voss Tech started in a borrowed garage. It was not pretty. The space was small and messy. There were wires everywhere. The computers were old and loud. I worked there day and night. I drank too much coffee. I barely slept. I believed in my idea even when no one else did. Slowly, the company grew. Now, Voss Tech is worth $12.3 billion. My company helps huge businesses work safely online. We build the invisible systems that keep everything running. We are like pipes behind the walls of a building. People do not see us, but without us, nothing works. I liked being unseen. I did not like showing off. I did not like bragging. I did not like loud attention. That was why I felt so different from the Thorne family. The Thornes loved attention. They loved being noticed. They loved saying their family name and company name out loud. They believed they were important because their parents and grandparents had been important before them. What no one at that party knew, especially not the Thornes, was something very important. 18 months ago, Voss Tech quietly bought most of Omnicorp Global. We did it carefully and secretly. We used many different companies, so no one would know it was us. When it was done, we owned 51% of Omnicorp Global. That meant we were in control. Omnicorp Global was a very old company. It was more than 100 years old. The Thorne family believed it belonged to them. They believed it was their crown, their pride, and their power. But it wasn't. It belonged to me. I was the chairwoman of the board. I made the big decisions. I watched everything from the shadows. I waited patiently for the right moment. That night, though, I was not Marceline the business leader. I was just Marceline, the older sister. I wore simple clothes on purpose. A soft gray dress that did not shine. Flat black shoes that were comfortable. On my wrist, I wore a small gold chain bracelet. It did not sparkle. It did not have diamonds. It was old and simple. That bracelet was special to me. My grandmother gave it to me before she passed away. I dressed this way for my sister, Eloan. Eloan was marrying Caius Thorne. She was already very nervous. She was scared of Caius's mother, Isolde. Aloan was kind and gentle. She was a teacher. She did not belong in this sharp, cold world of rich people and judging eyes. I did not want to make things worse for her. I found Aloan standing near a wall covered in flowers. The flowers were white and pink and smelled sweet. Aloan looked beautiful in her white lace dress. But her hands were shaking, and her smile looked tight. "Marceline," she said when she saw me. She hugged me tightly. "I'm so glad you're here," she whispered. "You look perfect. Simple and calm. Lysandra's dress is so shiny it hurts my eyes." I smiled and held her hands. "Tonight is about you," I said. "Try not to worry." Then I felt it. The room changed. The Thorne family was coming. Caius walked first. He was tall and neat. He looked confident, like he believed the room belonged to him. Beside him walked his mother, Isolde. She wore a dark blue dress and a huge diamond ring. Her eyes were sharp and cold. On the other side was Lysandra, Caius's sister. She wore a shiny gold dress and held her head high. They stopped in front of us. "Aloan, you look lovely," Isolde said sweetly. Then she looked at me. Her eyes paused. Her smile faded. "And you must be Marceline," she said. "Caius told us about you. You make little websites, right?" I felt my chest tighten. "I own a technology company," I said calmly. Isolde barely touched my hand when I reached out to greet her. "Oh, how nice," she said, clearly not believing me. "Everyone needs a hobby." She turned away like I was no longer important. Lysandra smiled at me, but it was not kind. "That dress is very plain," she said. "You should really dress better now that you're around our family." Caius laughed softly. "Don't worry. We'll help Marceline find something better. A small job. Something more suitable." They spoke about me like I wasn't standing there. I stayed calm. "We just signed a $2 billion deal," I said quietly. Isolde laughed loudly. "Oh dear," she said. "You don't understand real power. Omnicorp Global runs everything." They kept saying the name. Again and again. Omnicorp Global. Then Lysandra looked down at my wrist. At my bracelet. And that was the moment everything began to change. A thick, shiny gold bracelet rested on my wrist. It was smooth and warm against my skin. It was not just jewelry. It was a gift from my grandmother, someone I loved very much. To me, it was worth more than all the shiny company gifts and fancy toys these people loved so much. Suddenly, Lysandra reached out and grabbed my wrist without asking. Her fingers were cold and tight. She lifted my bracelet up toward the bright lights in the room. She looked at it closely, squinting her eyes like she was judging something very bad. She made a loud sniffing sound, like the bracelet smelled awful. Her nose wrinkled. Her lips curled. Then she dropped my arm quickly, like touching it made her uncomfortable. "Oh my goodness," Lysandra said loudly. "What is this sad little thing?" She held her fingers up like she didn't want them dirty. "Is it fake?" she asked. "It looks like something you would buy at a flea market. You know, those places where people sell old junk." She laughed a little. "Honestly, Marceline," she continued, "it really makes you look cheap. Even with that boring dress you're wearing. You should know better." She crossed her arms. "You know," she said, "Omnicorp has a special jewelry line just for important women who work there. Real gold. High class. I could send you a voucher so you can buy something nicer. Something that actually matters. Something that looks important." When she said the word cheap, it felt like she slapped me without touching me. My heart hurt. This was not really about the bracelet. This was about hurting me. They always did this. They laughed at my clothes. They laughed at my job. They laughed at my choices. They laughed at my family. They were not just insulting me. They were insulting my sister. They were insulting my grandmother. They were insulting my whole life. They wanted me to feel small. They wanted me to feel like I did not belong. Something inside me changed. All my patience dried up like water disappearing from a cup. My feelings went quiet. My mind became clear and calm, cold and sharp. I felt like a boss getting ready to make a very serious decision. "Excuse me," I said softly. My voice was quiet, but it was firm. There was something strong in it. Even Isolde stopped talking for a second. Isolde frowned. She did not like being ignored. "Don't you dare walk away while I'm talking to you," she snapped loudly. Her voice sounded like a teacher yelling at a child. "You need to learn manners before you join this family. This is an important lesson." I did not answer her. I did not look at her. I turned and walked away. I walked quickly past the crying woman near the table and moved toward the hallway that led to the hotel offices. My shoes clicked softly on the floor. My heart was steady. I pulled out my phone. This was not a normal phone line. It was a very safe, very secret line I had installed for emergencies only. The call went through immediately. "Theron," I said calmly. "It's Marceline." Theron Vale was the CEO of Omnicorp. He was once one of the most powerful men in the business world. People used to fear him. Now he worked for me. "I need you to start Project Nightingale," I said. "Code 1. There was silence for half a second. Then Theron spoke very carefully. "Code 1, he asked. His voice shook a little. "That means immediate firing. No warning. No severance pay. 3 people. Is that correct, Miss Voss?" "Yes," I said. "Lysandra Thorne," I continued. "Fire her from her job as Director of Public Relations. Caius Thorne," I said next. "Put him on forced leave. Say it is for bad behavior and breaking company rules. And Isolde Thorne," I added. "She doesn't work for Omnicorp, but she uses company privileges. Take away her access cards, her parking pass, and the family's special opera box. All of it. Right now." Theron took a breath. "Send the messages immediately," I said. "Send them their work emails and their personal phones. And Theron," I added, "make sure Lysandra's email allows everyone at work to see it." "Yes, Chairwoman," he replied. "Legal and HR are ready. Everything will be done." I ended the call. Then I sent one short, secret text message to my lawyer, Celine. She was waiting in a taxi close by. "Come to the Grand Regency Ballroom," I typed. "Code Silver. Bring the papers." I slipped my phone away. Then I walked back to the table. My face was calm, very calm, but my eyes felt bright and sharp like lightning before a storm. The Thorns were still standing together, talking and laughing. They had no idea what was coming. Lysandra was showing my sister Eloan a picture on her phone. "Look at this," Lysandra said proudly. "My new watch. $10,000. Isn't it beautiful?" Eloan forced a small smile. Lysandra put her phone away and sighed dramatically. "Honestly, Eloan," she said, "you really need to talk to your sister." She pointed at me. "People who work for themselves always look sloppy," she continued. "It makes the family look bad. You should be grateful we're letting you into our world." Isolde straightened her back, enjoying the attention. "Marceline," she said loudly, "you owe us an apology for walking away." She smiled like she was being kind. "We can help you," she went on. "I'll call HR on Monday. We can probably find you a small office job. Maybe answering phones." She nodded. $50,000 a year, she said. "No benefits for 6 months. It will help you grow up and stop playing with that silly website business." I raised my hand. Just one hand. Everyone stopped talking. The room felt quieter, even though it was full of people. "I'm sorry if I was rude," I said clearly. My voice carried across the room. "But I won't apologize for my job. I won't apologize for my bracelet. And I won't listen to you talk about how important you are anymore." People nearby turned to look. Caius shifted his feet. He looked uncomfortable. "I didn't mean it like that," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." I looked at him calmly. "Oh, you meant every word," I said. "But that's okay. I have a question for you. You keep talking about Omnicorp like it gives you power," I said. "Do you think power comes from working for a company? Or from owning it?" Isolde laughed loudly. "Oh, Marceline," she said, shaking her head. "Stop being silly. You don't understand these things." She smiled smugly. "Adults know that managers have power. Not people like you." I smiled back. It was a small smile. A sharp one. "I do understand," I said. 18 months ago, my company bought most of Omnicorp. I own it. I am the chairwoman. You work for me." The words fell heavy. No one spoke. Isolde's face turned pale. Caius's mouth fell open. Lysandra looked frozen like a statue. The room went very quiet. So quiet you could hear music playing far away. People nearby stared. Some checked their phones. Lysandra shook her head quickly. "No," she said. "That's impossible. You're lying. My father helped build that company," she said. "It's public. We would know." I tilted my head slightly. "Would you?" I asked gently. At that exact moment their phones buzzed. One by one. Lysandra looked down. Her face went white. Caius checked his phone and swallowed hard. Isolde's smile disappeared. Everything they thought they knew was gone. And the bracelet on my wrist felt heavier and stronger than ever. Suddenly, Caius's phone buzzed loudly in his hand. It was not a normal buzz or a gentle beep. It was a sharp, loud sound that could be recognized immediately by anyone who worked at Omni Corporation. It was the special emergency sound, the one used only for really big problems in the company. People never heard this sound unless something serious, very serious, was happening. Caius froze. His heart started beating very fast, like a drum. He looked down at his phone. His eyes grew very big, round like 2 dinner plates. He could feel his hands shaking. Even the glass of bubbly champagne in his hand started to wobble. The liquid sloshed, almost spilling onto the fancy tablecloth. He barely managed to hold it steady. At the same time, Lysandra's phone made 2 noises at once. The first was a normal email notification sound. It was a small, polite beep. But the second sound was different. It was bold, flashing, and loud. It came straight from the OmniCorp system. It made the small screen of her phone light up red and white. It blinked like a warning sign. Lysandra quickly grabbed her phone and looked at it. Her eyes widened and she gasped. Her mouth opened in shock, but no words came out at first. She put her hand over her mouth. The silk she was holding crushed softly under her fingers. Her voice was barely a whisper as she said, No, this can't be real. Her email said she was fired. Not in a few days, or after a warning. Immediately. It said she did very bad things at work. It said that everyone in the company could see this message. Everyone. It wasn't a secret anymore. The email explained that she had made bad choices when choosing vendors. It said she had misused company money. She had spent it in ways she shouldn't have. The email called her actions unethical, which is a very big, grown-up word for bad and wrong at work. Caius was holding his phone too. He read his email. His hands shook even more than before. He looked at Lysandra. Tears formed in his eyes. His voice was tiny and scared like a little mouse. Mine says I have to go on administrative leave, immediately, he squeaked. They're checking everything I did at work. It talks about money problems, cheating. What is going on, Lysandra? What did you do? Then Caius understood something very scary. The problem was not just Lysandra. It was bigger. It was about the whole family. Isolde, Lysandra and Caius's boss, was standing across the table. She was furious. Her face was red and her eyes were wide. She shouted in a shrill, loud voice. Her voice cracked and shook, but she tried to sound powerful. This is ridiculous, she cried. It must be a mistake. Lysandra, call Theron Vale immediately. Caius, you go to the CEO's office on Monday and demand an explanation. You can't trust this website. You don't listen to this nonsense. Just then, a new person entered the room. Her presence was calm but very strong. She walked like she owned the floor. Her name was Celine Vale. She was my lawyer, but she was not related to Theron Vale. It was just a coincidence that their last names were the same. Celine wore a black suit that looked very crisp and clean. It made her look powerful and serious. She carried a thick leather folder with a big, shiny company seal on it. The seal shone like silver in the light. She did not need to speak. Just by walking into the room, she told everyone that she was the authority. She was like a living, breathing document of rules and law. I stood up and looked Isolde straight in the eye. I spoke clearly and loudly. No need, Isolde, I said. Theron Vale is on the phone with me right now. And as for explanations, he works for me. I pointed at Celine. She has the papers. The official legal documents that show I am the majority owner of the company. As of 5 minutes ago, neither Caius nor Lysandra work for me. And your personal corporate access keys have been permanently revoked. Isolde's mouth opened, but she could not speak. Her hands shook as she tried to regain control of the situation. She had been using those keys for hotel bookings, shopping, and giving press access to Lysandra's friends. Now all of that was gone. I turned to the guard nearby. Please clear her box at the Met. Effective immediately, I said. Caius looked like he might faint. His knees almost gave way. Lysandra stood silently, shaking. Tears ran down her face, mixing with expensive makeup. Her high-powered career, which had seemed so secure, suddenly vanished like smoke in the wind. Isolde, however, tried one last move. It was her final dramatic attempt to gain control. She grabbed Eloan's arm with a strong, painful grip. Eloan! You must stop her. Tell her she is destroying your future. Fix this, or you will regret it for the rest of your life. Eloan had been quiet the entire time. She watched everything unfold. She saw how entitled and cruel Isolde could be. She saw how selfish her family really was. Eloan's face was pale, but her eyes were sharp. There was a spark in them, a spark of defiance. She gently and carefully removed Isolde's hand from her arm. Her voice trembled, but it was steady and strong. My future isn't with people who humiliate my family for fun, she said. My sister is my family. You are just guests here celebrating our choice, and you have just shown me the truth. All you care about is a corporate title. You are not worthy of my loyalty. With that, Eloan reached up and took the delicate 3-carat diamond engagement ring from her finger. The light reflected off it one last time in a brilliant flash. She placed it gently on the clean, white tablecloth next to Caius's trembling hand. "The engagement is over," she announced clearly. The room fell silent. People stared in shock. Eloan turned to me, her eyes wet but strong. A small smile began to appear on her face. "I need a cheeseburger," she said. I took her arm and pulled her close. We started to leave. Isolde suddenly lunged at me, tears streaming down her face. Her carefully constructed mask of power was gone. She looked scared, desperate, and completely powerless. "You evil, petty little girl," she shouted. "You'll regret this. This is my son's life. You can't do this to us." I stopped, my hand still resting lightly on Eloan's elbow. I leaned close to Isolde. My voice dropped to a deadly cold whisper. She, Lysandra, and Caius could hear me over the murmurs of the crowd. "Petty," I said. "You called my grandmother's vintage gold bracelet tarnished. You offered me a $50,000 receptionist job while stealing corporate parking passes. You humiliated my sister in public repeatedly. Your unethical choices at work were always a ticking time bomb. You just made the mistake of insulting the owner. You deserve this. The investigation into your family's fraudulent expenses and misconduct is just starting. Enjoy looking at the world from the outside. Isolde. You're done." We walked away. We left behind the chaos, the melted ice swan, the crystal glasses, and the Thorne family's arrogance. Outside, the air in New York was fresh and cold. It smelled like freedom. It felt like victory. Eloan collapsed into the back of the waiting taxi. She was crying, but she was also laughing. It was a mixture of relief and joy, a release of years of pent-up stress. "That was the most dramatic, expensive, perfectly executed corporate coup I've ever seen," she said. She took a deep, shuddering breath. "I think I owe you a lifetime supply of cashmere and maybe even a piece of your company." I smiled and pulled her into a genuine hug. "You owe me nothing, Eloan," I said. "You are my sister. No arrogant family who thinks a job title is worth more than decency can treat you or me that way. Their power was never real. Mine is quiet. Now let's go home and celebrate your freedom." The next day the news broke. Omnicorp Global's share price dipped slightly. Everyone was talking about the dramatic, unexplained changes in the company. The publicized executive resignations caused a stir. The Thorne name was ruined in corporate circles across the city. People would remember that a woman in a simple slate-colored dress had refused to be underestimated. She had shown that wealth and power are nothing without decency and respect. I looked at my wrist. My old, tarnished gold bracelet reflected the city lights. It wasn't shiny anymore, but it didn't need to be. Some wealth doesn't have to shout to be noticed. It just waits for the right moment. And when the right moment comes, it wins.